It began with tears. Not the fleeting kind that glisten and vanish quickly, but tears heavy with meaning, tears that trembled like rain before a storm. Diep's fragile frame shook as her sobs broke the silence of the small house. Each drop was more than sorrow, it was a plea, a desperate cry from the soul of a woman fighting to keep her family intact. James stood helpless, his chest tightening with unbearable pain. Watching the woman he loved unravel before his eyes was agony. In that moment, clarity struck him like lightning. He could not, he would not, let little Nhi slip away. The thought of losing her, of seeing Diep's arms empty and her smile fade, was unbearable. Every sacrifice James had made, every sleepless night, every silent battle, suddenly crystallized into one truth. His wealth, his career, even his pride, none of it mattered if Diep and Nhi were not beside him. With tears burning in his own eyes, James made a vow that lived in silence but roared in his heart. No matter what lay ahead, family, fate, or fortune, he would fight until his last breath to protect them. A fragile happiness. That evening, the sky stretched low and wide, painted with fading gold and violet streaks. Inside the modest home, laughter spilled through the rooms, Nhi's laughter, high and pure, chasing away the heaviness in the air. She sat on the floor, arranging wooden blocks into precarious towers, her small fingers eager, her spirit untamed. Diep knelt beside her, guiding gently, her smile soft and tender. Yet, behind her warmth lingered shadows James could not ignore. From the doorway, he watched. Something pierced him deeply in that scene. The way Diep brushed the child's hair aside as though she had been her mother forever. The way Nhi leaned into her so naturally, effortlessly, as though this bond had been written long before bloodlines came into question. But beneath the tenderness was fragility. At any moment, James felt, someone might step in and shatter this fragile world they had built. The threat had been real ever since word spread that Nhi's relatives were searching, demanding her return. Nights grew quieter. James often woke to muffled sobs buried under Diep's pillow. She never spoke of it, but the swollen shadows under her eyes told him everything. That night, as Nhi drifted into sleep, her tiny hand clutched Diep's sleeve. Diep refused to move, as though afraid that letting go of her daughter's hand, even in slumber, might summon the storm outside their door. James approached quietly. He caught the shimmer of tears rolling down her cheek, tears she wiped away too late. The sight broke him more than any storm ever could. He wanted to speak then, to break the silence, to give voice to the vow blazing inside him. I will not let Nhi go. But the words faltered. Was it fear? Was it the crushing weight of responsibility? Or was it the dread of offering too deep a fragile hope the world might one day tear away? Instead, he simply brushed his fingers against hers. The unspoken was louder than words. Silence and shadows. The next morning dawned gray, the sky cloaked in a blanket of cloud, heavy as James's heart. The rhythms of ordinary life, coffee brewing, bowls clattering, NHI humming, seemed suddenly fragile, as though the smallest sound might shatter them. Too Deep carried herself with quiet resilience. But James saw what she tried to hide, the way her hand lingered on Nee's shoulder, the way her eyes followed the child's every move with silent fear. When NHI wrapped her arms around her waist, Too Deep bent low, holding her as though to freeze time itself. James could no longer stay silent. He reached across the table, his hand brushing against hers. Deep, he whispered. She looked up, startled, eyes shimmering with unspoken questions. For a moment, silence stretched, filled only by Nee's happy humming. James swallowed hard, his chest heavy with everything he wanted to say. But he could not bring himself to speak the vow aloud. To say it was to declare war against those who sought to take NHI away. To say it was to bind Too Deep's fragile heart to a promise that might be crushed under the weight of the law. I know what she means to you, he finally murmured. Her eyes softened, hope and fear colliding in their depths. Yet just as he readied himself to go further, Nee's laughter rang out as her bowl tipped, soup spilling across the table. The moment dissolved, her tears once again hidden behind a smile. James sat back in silence, torn between relief and regret. The letter. Days blurred into a fragile balance between ordinary routines and quiet dread. Each phone call tightened James's chest. Each knock at the door sent his pulse racing. It was only a matter of time, and then it came, a letter, sealed and heavy with authority. Too Deep froze as James read the words. Cold, formal sentences announcing that Nee's biological relatives had petitioned to take her back. They would come. Soon. Too Deep's hands trembled as she reached for the paper, but James pulled her close, feeling her stiffen in his arms. Her tears soaked into his shirt, her breath breaking in sobs she tried to stifle. She's mine, James, she whispered, almost to herself. I can't lose her. I can't. James broke then, shattered by the raw desperation in her voice. He had seen her cry before, silently, in the dark, but never like this. And he knew, beyond doubt, that he could not let NHI go. Not just for himself, but for her, for Too Deep, whose love for this child was deeper than blood, stronger than any law. The confrontation. The morning of reckoning came too soon. A car rolled slowly down the narrow road, its engine breaking the stillness. James stood tense at the window as two officials stepped out, followed by a woman whose sharp features echoed faintly in Nye's face. Inside, Diep clutched Nhi close, her knuckles white, trembling as though the ground itself had split beneath her. The child, too young to understand, buried her face into her mother's chest, sensing a storm without knowing its name. James opened the door before they could knock. His expression was calm, but his eyes burned with fire. Words were exchanged, cold words of bloodlines, rights, and what was best for the child. The woman reached out, pleading for Nhi to come home. Behind him, James heard it, Diep's broken sob. James, please don't let them take her, something inside him snapped. Silence was no longer an option. He stepped forward, voice steady but fierce. She is ours. She belongs with Diep, with me. Family is not blood, it is love, sacrifice, and the arms that held her when no one else did. You will not take her. The officials stiffened. The woman faltered. Diep's tears shifted, shining now not only with sorrow but with hope. James moved closer, wrapping his arm around them both. His voice softened, but it carried with unshakable conviction. I can't let her go. I won't. If you want to take her, you'll have to go through me. Silence fell. Even the officials were shaken by the force of his resolve. Slowly, the woman lowered her hand. The visitors withdrew, speaking of further discussion. But James no longer heard them. All that mattered was the trembling woman in his arms and the child clutching his shirt. Love spoken aloud. When the car disappeared down the road, Diep turned to him, tears still streaming. James, you said it. You told them. He pressed his forehead to hers, his voice low but steady. I told them because I told myself first. I can't let her go, Diep. Not now, not ever. For the first time in nights, her tears fell not from sorrow, but from trembling relief. She was not alone, and in that fragile moment of shared truth, their family, chosen, not born, stood unbreakable. Reflections lessons. The story of Diep's tears and James's courage teaches us that family cannot be measured by blood alone. It is built through sacrifice, trust, and the refusal to let go of those who make life worth living. Love, when true, demands courage. Silence may feel safer, but words spoken in truth can become the shield that guards what matters most. Nye's innocence reminds us. Every child deserves not just a home, but a place where love surrounds them. James's decision to stand firm proves that strength is not found in contracts or titles, but in promises honored with heart and action. Sometimes it is tears that reveal our deepest truths. Sometimes it is love spoken aloud that reshapes destiny. And sometimes, when courage meets love, not even the strongest forces can tear a family apart.